I'm Katie Wells, host of the Maximized Minimalist podcast. I escaped the hamster wheel of modern-day motherhood, overwhelmed by clutter and buried under the mental load. Now I live in a home that feels calm, manageable, and made for real life. I have margin in my days, energy for who matters most, and time for slow mornings and silly dance parties in the kitchen with my family. With over 5 million listens, the show has helped women around the world turn their homes into their happy place. Around here, we simplify for more peace, more presence, and more joy. We choose grace over guilt and progress over perfection. And we believe your home should give back more than it takes. I'm here to help you do the same. Come along with me and my guests as we share the real stories, habits, and strategies that help you lighten the load from the inside out. Pull up a seat, friend, and let's do this together. Ready, set, simplify. Brie Sodano. Good morning. Nice to see you.
Oh, hi. It's my pleasure. I love hanging out with you.
Same. Always look forward to your time on the show and extracting some gold nuggets from you. Every time I walk away encouraged, and I'm just so excited for this conversation.
Me too.
Welcome.
Me too. Been looking forward to it.
Last time you're on the show, I didn't ask these new questions I asked my guests, but bada bing, bada boom, we're going to go for it. I always kick off the show now with a new question, and that is, if you magically could declutter one thing from your life forever, no effort required, what would it be?
I mean, could I magically have a clean sink for the rest of my life?
Yes.
All right, that's what I would choose. I would choose a clean sink. If we're having a magic wand situation and I could also know where all my forks and cups are, I would also love that. Does anybody have teenagers? They will steal your forks and they will hide your cups.
Spoons? I'm not there yet.
I haven't had a spoon since 2004.
Are you eating with your bare hands?
Yes, that's what we're doing here. And every time I go to Target, I accidentally spend $284 and forget the forks.
Oh, that tees us up for a great convo. Those Target runs, man, they add up, don't they?
I actually avoid going in there because it's like a magical wonderland.
I was there the other day. I only go once a year by design. I don't know. It was an easy thing for me to cut. It's not, I don't know. And you're right. It is like, all of a sudden, all logic can just like evaporate from your brain. And you're like, oh, look at this is cute. Oh, that would look cute on. Oh, I already have a swimsuit, but look, this one, like, I don't know. There's something about, you're right. Is it the smell? I mean, it's obviously, we know they spend millions of dollars to design their environment to make you want to spend. And it works. I mean, it's tricky. So, all right. So you need some forks and cups. I know what to send you for your next celebration there. Well, we're talking about budget today. When I first met you back in 2019, this was one of our earlier conversations. And I think so much has changed in our culture. I feel like with technology, social media, all these different things that might lend itself to the conversation today. I would say, speaking to that with one-click purchases, tap to pay, all these monthly subscriptions, from everything from snacks to socks, maybe spoons and forks. I don't know. Like, I think modern spending has never been more frictionless and I think also overwhelming for us. So I want to kick us off by asking, why do you think so many smart, capable women struggle with budgeting?
So this question has a few different layers. So on the first and on the tool level, a budget is a planning tool and it's not an execution tool. Right. So we just think about it from your business, putting a plan in place is one thing, building out the systems is something else. And the systems is the execution tool. So most people can put the plan in place and then they don't have anything to support the actual execution of it. And I just want to point that out because this is a place where women will internalize things like, oh, I'm bad at money. And I'm like, the thing is you're using a wrong tool. Right. If you saw me cutting my potatoes with a spatula, you'd be like, oh, sweetheart, that's the wrong tool. There's nothing wrong with you or your potatoes. You are using a flipping device for cutting. It makes no sense. So, on the tool level, there's that. The next layer is really around mental load. And women today are carrying way more than is reasonable or fair or possible. We're doing work, we're raising families, we're watering the plants, we're being a sex goddess, and we're debating whether or not we should get Botox. There's so much that we're doing all at the same time. We have 3 primary resources in our life: our time, our money, and our energy. And you could turn those 3 resources into basically anything. And so most of the time when we're trying to manage the money, if we don't actually have the time and mental energy resources to dedicate to this system or this plan or whatever it is we're doing, it's not going to work. And again, it's not because anything's wrong with us. It's because we were like, oh, let me do this. But then I actually don't have the resources required for it to sustain. This is where we have to look at things a little bit differently. The other reason is because most of the time with budgets, the way that you would make the decision, like the way that you would stay in your budget and in the moment of purchase is to be able to look at your budget and see what you've already spent and see what's there, which really means that you'd have to have that spreadsheet up to date at all times. And if you have two people spending money out of the same bank account, that means that you have that means that there's been a lot of unsexy marital communication for this to really stay up to date for you to be able to make the decision. So most people, obviously, they can't be up to date with everything all at the exact same time. And so they look at their bank account and they're like, all right, well, I need taco shells. I'm going to the store. We're buying taco shells and I will work the math later. And then they're back to the place of working and reworking their numbers. So this is really why most people fail with their budgets. It's a time and mental energy, it's not accounted for. Then they're working with a planning tool and they're trying to use a planning tool for execution. That's enough to make it fall apart.
And a planning tool might be a spreadsheet. I mean, there's so many apps out there. Is this what you're...
Yeah. And so a tracking tool is also not a budget. So a budget, basically we're saying, this is what I want my money to do. So this is a forward facing tool. It's saying, all right, well, I want my money to pay off my debt, or I want my money to go to vacation, then we're looking at future money. A tracking tool is past money, but the thing about it is that's going to be where you know what needs to shift and change. Yeah. So the other thing about it is when people often do budgets, they're looking at future facing money and they're like, all right, well, this is what I want, but they have no idea of what actually that's going to cost in terms of habits. If you leave all of those habits in place and then you want your money to do something else, this is where again, it's not an execution tool. It just tells you what you want your money to do.
So what I'm hearing is there's this gap in between. I mean, the tracking is helpful, obviously.
Yeah.
Very helpful. And then budgeting's future planning. So what fills that gap? Systems.
Yeah. And when we're really looking at how to get our money under control, the easiest way to do it is to look in the transactions. So you want to do the money tracking. But from here, what we really want to be looking at is we want to be looking at it from time, money, and energy. So one of the biggest myths, the biggest mistakes that people make when they're trying to get their money under control is they try to spend less dollars. And oftentimes that requires going to more stores, doing more shopping. This is the example I've read lots of pages of transactions over the last 13 years. And so usually it's food is a number one place because groceries is a place that women have some discretionary spending and we have some control over that. So that's usually a place that we'll try to pull back. So here's the thing. It should be all right, well, I could go to Aldi's and I could buy the cheapest snacks there. Oh, and if I go to the meat market, I could get the meat that's on sale and then I'll have to go to the regular grocery store for all my fruits and veg. And, but now we've taken a tremendous amount of time, a tremendous amount of energy. We're going to put ourselves into decision fatigue. And honestly, I've read all the transactions. It doesn't save money. I know that you can get the cheapest freaking Costco cucumbers. I know that the cucumbers or the strawberries are cheaper at Costco. I know that they are, and people will fight me on this, but I've read the transactions and I know that if you're going to 2, 3, 4 grocery stores, you're spending more money. And listen, if you want to stay doing, people come for me about this. I'm like, you get to do it the way that you want.
Yeah.
You get to do it the way that you want. But when we look at how do we spend less time, less money, less energy all at the same time, that's the place where you want to start looking. And the reason for this is because then you have time to rest. Have you ever gone to 3 grocery stores? You don't want to food prep when you get home. You want to order a pizza.
Yes, I sometimes want to, even after just going to one store. But I certainly have more time and energy than if I went to 3 stores. I would be exhausted.
Yeah.
Yes.
So when we look at the transactions, we want to be looking how do we spend less time, less energy, less money all at the same time? And those are the best places to start making changes. And also we have to look at habits and we have to tell ourselves the truth about this because a lot of times we get something beyond the thing that we just bought. Sometimes there's a social value. Let's say you and I go out to lunch. Well, we buy the sandwich, right? We buy the lunch, but also we're going to have an hour. We're going to do girl time. We're going to hang out. We're going to gab. And so a lot of times when people are wanting to cut back money, they don't put a plan in place for the things that they actually need, right? So like, I actually need girl time. I was inviting you for a sandwich to actually get to hang out with you.
Yeah.
Right. So the sandwich wasn't even the thing that I was at. I just needed an invitation. Do you see the difference?
Yes, that makes total sense.
So when we look at our money that way, then it tends to be more sustainable. And we don't try to change every single one of our spending habits on the same day either, which also, doesn't work.
Which I think a lot of people tend to do as well. It's like, hey, we have a moment where we get a crazy high credit card. I know years ago, before I met you, we had this moment. It's a crazy high credit card bill. Andrew's like, where'd the money go? And I was like, I had no answer because it wasn't a really large purchase. It wasn't a designer handbag or, whatever. It was like, hey, I'm going to Target for cat litter, and $250 later, like you said, I added stuff to my cart all the time. It's chronically $15 here. And my brain was like, it's just $15. It's just 20. It's just $5. And I think even more now with like Temu and all these other, Amazon is more popular than ever. I think it's a negotiation tactic our brain comes up with to like be like, oh, this is okay. But gosh, oh my gosh, it adds up.
Yeah. So there's a thing that I've noticed that I call habit blindness. So I'll tell you a quick story. So I was working with clients, and this is years ago. So I had a young couple that I was working with, and they're 4 months into a 6-month contract with me. And they come into my office and they're fretting and they're like, basically, we have to fire you because we don't have the money to pay you. And I was like, I've seen your numbers. Like, and they did not want to fire me. So anyways, I get into their transactions with them and I'm like, well, you spent $600 shopping. And I like look at her and I'm like, and you spent like $400 on snacks. And so the thing is when I went through the transactions with her, I said, hey, you went to Marshall's on this day. You spent this much money. She couldn't remember being there. And then I was like, or she'd be like, oh, yeah, maybe. All right. I'm like, what'd you buy? Now, listen, this number is specifically hers. You will have to figure this out for yourself. If she spent less than $46, she couldn't remember what she bought.
Wow. That's highly specific.
Anything more than like $46, she would remember exactly what she bought. So anything less than, the $45 mark she was able to purchase on autopilot, and there was no conscious recollection. And for him, his transactions were different. I feel like he really passed the test because I was like, well, what'd you get at Jersey Mike's? And he was like, a sandwich. It's like, what'd you get at Dunkin' Donuts? And he was like, coffee. And I was like, you're winning this, but really, like, we don't. So it doesn't matter if he bought ham or turkey. But basically, the habit blindness is what happens when we're spending on autopilot. And these are the easiest. It's so easy. And this is, again, like why multiple stores and doing more and more shopping. We have a limited amount of decision making every day. Like the glucose that's in our brain is not infinite. And so, what brand of pasta you buy costs in terms of decision making as much as like if you should send your kid to college. Like it's the cost is the same. You're like, Ronzoni? Barilla? I don't know. But like you're like, Rutgers? I don't know, even though I don't have a second college in my mind. But anyways, so this is, these decisions, they cost something. So the budget blindness is a thing. And so this is really why looking at the transactions is really helpful. And the other thing we have to look at is the total, and then you look for the habits. So like, let's just say you're looking at your transactions and you say, all right, how much do you think you're supposed to be spending on groceries? So let's say you think you're supposed to be spending, we'll just use this as a number, $1,000 a month, right? $1,000 a month on groceries. All right. And then you total it all up. All right, well, we're actually spending $1,500. And now from here, this is the place where we're like, are we throwing food away? Because sometimes people just have ideas about how much they should be spending on things that came from Pinterest in 2017.
1,000%.
And you're like, and the number one was, I listen to ladies who beat themselves up about buying groceries for their family. Like, I'm pretty ready to go. I'm like, well, don't you need to feed the people? Like, you're going to have to feed them every day. They're going to be hungry every day. Like skimping on groceries just leads to takeout purchases. But anyway, so sometimes we have to evaluate, was the budget, was the number just a wrong guess, or are we overspending? If you're throwing a lot of food away, you could probably cut back your grocery budget. If you're eating the vast majority of your food, so your budget's fine. But then that's the place. So let's just say, well, now I'm spending, let's just say you look at the math, and the math, you're like, no, the $1,000 XYZ, we're spending $2,000. All right, well, now we know that we're looking for $1,000. And so then when we get into the transactions, you start to look and you start to get, see, all right, well, I go to the grocery store every Sunday. I go and I spend $250, and that's where I came up with $1,000. But then 3 or 4 days a week, I see $30, $40, $50 grocery store transactions. I went this time, I went to go buy the taco shells. I spent $64. I sent my husband for Powerade. He spent, I don't know, who knows, $74. It's like you get in there and then all of a sudden you're like, oh yeah, we need lemons. Oh yeah, we need this.
Yes.
It's easy. And so you'd want to look at the habits and not necessarily the dollar amounts, because when you look at the dollar amounts, you're like, well, I needed lemons, so I had to buy lemons. But when you look at the habits and you're like, no, what if we just don't go to, we'll just resign ourselves to, unless there's literally I will die without lemons. Not die, but not to be drama. But we go to the grocery store once a week and that's just it. We don't go. We just make do. We make taco salad if we forgot taco shells. Everything will be fine. And then you break the habit of that constant going. And then you'll get better at your list as it goes on. You know what I mean? But we have to look at the habit to change rather than the dollar amount.
And I think a lot of people do that with Amazon too. The Amazon purchases. I mean, Prime-nesia, that's a thing. Something shows up on your doorstep, you have no clue. And I'd actually be curious, because that happens to me. And then I'm like, I panic. I'm like, did I impulse buy something? No, it's just I immediately thought, oh, I need more, whatever, shampoo. We do the 3-in-1 for the kids still. So shampoo, conditioner, and body wash and and it'll show up. And I'm like, oh no, this is a consumable. We needed it. But I'd be curious what my number is, what I forget. For that woman, for that story, it was $46. But it's true. I'd be curious to actually go and look at the numbers and be like, what's the mark for me?
It's also different depending on what you're buying. So I know for me, listen, I will go out to eat and I will drop anything less than $100. I'm barely looking at my check. But if I'm spending more than $40 on a piece of clothing, I'm deep breathing in the aisles of White House Black Market. I'll be like, should I do it? Am I going to be okay? I don't know. It's the weirdest thing. But somehow later calamari, I'm like, yeah, but put it on the tab. But somehow an outfit is just a weird thing. And it's not good or bad or right or wrong. I'm certainly not, it's everybody's is different. So it might be different for shopping versus housewares versus going out to eat, whatever else. So you can start to the way to play with it is when you're walking back to your car, could you remember how much was the transaction you just put your PIN code in for? And if you're walking to your car and you ask yourself, how much did I just spend? And you have no idea, you're very likely on autopilot. You're very likely on autopilot. And you can even play with it further and be like, what's in this bag? What did I just buy? And if you can't remember, you are on autopilot. And that's, again, it's okay. It's just something, once you're aware of it, then your conscious mind will be like, oh, we're less than $46. Is there anything, But honestly, the real trick is to spend more money less often.
So it's almost like I try to do a lot of task batching, right? So if I'm in the kitchen, I want to be in the kitchen for a little while versus being in the kitchen 5 times for less time that day, right? Or whatever, working or cleaning. I don't like to do little bits at a time. I'd rather condense my dishes to once or twice a day versus 5. So it's kind of the same thing. You're putting more intention up front, maybe planning, making your grocery list order or Amazon order. And instead of getting Amazon deliveries once a day, you're doing once a week or grocery shopping?
With Amazon, what I generally suggest is if you absolutely need something, hit the buy now button and it's okay. But anything that is not an absolute necessity, wait until your payday. So for most people, that's every 2 weeks. And so then you see the total amount on your payday. But when you look at the cart and it's got $300 worth of stuff in it, you will look at that cart very differently than you would if it was $10 here, $12 here, $47 here. And so this is where I'm saying when you shop less often, but you spend more money, you will take yourself above that pain point threshold. So that now you're not shopping on autopilot. So now you have the ability to really look at the whole cart value and be like, do I want to spend $356? Who knows what's in? I mean, who knows what's in our Amazon carts? Literally, I find great stuff in there sometimes. I'm like, what was I going to? One time I had a big jar of giant capers. You know, those little salty.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
I was like, who do I think I live with? Who was going to eat these giant capers? What was I even thinking about? and they were like, it's like a luxury purchase. It was like $26 of capers. And I'm like, so weird. But anyways, that was in there. Who knows what you're going to find? So, and the same thing. So if you go to the grocery store, it's generally the small purchases that are really the problem. If you spend $27 a day, it's 10 grand in a year, and I'm like, it's so easy to spend $27. It's the easiest thing ever. So when we shop less often, but we buy more, that's actually really helpful.
Oh, gosh, that makes so much sense. I'm going to do that with Amazon. And you're building in I often talk about like having a 24 to 48 hour rule. That's built in, but it's even more time typically until your next paycheck, right?
Well, basically what you're doing is it's not about, do I really want this? Or it's really not that question. It's just now you're looking at the total that you're going to spend.
Yes.
And that gives you a sense of clarity that you won't get from buying one or two things at a time. Yeah. But again, like my toothpaste comes from Amazon, and I'm unwilling to go into a Target for things like that because again, I could accidentally spend a lot of money in Target when I'm going in for toothpaste. Also, I don't really go shopping all that often. So for me, it's like a whole, anyways, where I'm going with this is, so buy the toothpaste. Just buy it. If you need it, you're out of it. You're not going to go without toothpaste. Nobody's suggesting that you would. That'd be a very silly, weird thing to suggest. But it's everything else. It's everything else. It's like, I don't know. It's the other stuff. And then what I also suggest is the stuff that you buy all the time regularly, you can put that on subscribe and save and just have that be part of your monthly bill so you kind of know where you're at with it. So like your 3-in-1 shampoo, body wash, and conditioner, that could just come every month or however often you need it. And so that way also that reduces the mental load. So again, it's where we want to be considering the mental load of things. So like subscribe and save. Like I haven't thought about toilet paper since like 2016. It's been on subscribe and save for probably 10 years.
That's nice. See, I never calculate my usage right on any subscribe and save. So for me, I'd be like, oh, I'd get another delivery and the consumables would build up. And then I'd be like, oh, let me change the time frame. And then I would always miscalculate and it caused me more mental load than thinking about, it was dishwasher pucks, So for me, it did the opposite. I think my brain just doesn't work. I can't handle that. It's too much for me.
Right. Well, we should all do what works for us. And if it's more trouble than it's worth, then don't do it that way. But that's the way that I do it. And also sometimes I do have a closet full of toilet paper, which worked out great during COVID. It worked out literally during COVID. I already had 2 cases. And so everything was fine.
You were ahead of the game. You had friends hitting you up, be like, hey, Brie, can I come over?
It was just my mom one time.
Nobody else paper out the window.
Nobody else knew.
No, yeah, that was a well-kept secret.
It wasn't really a secret. It's just like, I was like, oh yeah, we have toilet paper. Everything's fine.
Prepared. Okay, so let's talk about what a money bleed is, because this term I hadn't heard from you, and you've kind of been talking about it without saying that specifically, but, and why identifying that it is often more effective than that budget spreadsheet we started with. Like, what's the money bleed? It ties into the tracking piece of it. And tell us more about that.
So a money bleed is when you're spending money on something that you really don't want and you really don't need. You're probably going to feel bad about. A lot of times you bought under pressure. You bought because you were short on time. You were short on energy. Like if you've ever bought a pizza and you knew you didn't want to spend the money and you didn't even really want to eat the pizza, you just knew that you didn't want to cook. That's a pretty good indication of a money bleed. We want to be thinking about these things and then planning around them with the truth of the time and energy that we actually have. So I'm going to just tell a quick little story to ground this for you all. But years ago, I had a client and I'm looking at their transactions and I could see every Wednesday there was a purchase, between $50 and $100 for food. And I'm like, well, you guys tell me you're not spending any money on food, but I'm like, every week, every Wednesday I see. And I'm like, you add up $75 a week. It's not nothing. You know what I mean? She's like, yeah, because the boys have baseball and my daughter has dance. By the time that, I go to get her, my husband goes to get them. By the time we get home, and so I'm, it's 7:30 and I order the pizza while we're on the way home. So that way I could get the kids washed. We eat pizza and go straight to bed, basically. And I'm like, all right, so we know that on Wednesday, you don't have time to cook. And so when we see that and we can just admit to that, well, she cooked on Sunday. I'm like, we could make a double, a double meal on Sunday. We could throw something in the crock pot. We could buy a frozen pizza. We could have sandwiches ready to go, right? Because I was like, the amount of money that they were spending, this was years ago. This was like before big inflation happened. But she ended up taking her kids to Disney with the amount of money that she didn't spend on food, right?
Oh
so like,
gosh.
But if we just think, oh, I'll get home, if we just lie to ourselves and we're like, all right, well, I'll just get home on Wednesday and I'll cook. Sometimes on Sunday when you're like home and you're leisurely, you're wearing your pajamas, you're scrolling on Pinterest, like it's so easy to be like in your domestic goddess mode. And you're like, yes, organic kale. I'm going to buy a butternut squash. Everything's going to be so healthy. I'm a good mom. And then Wednesday comes and you're like, FT. Nobody should talk to me until this glass of wine is empty, right? You had a long day, you did all the things, and I'm like, that's the place. So sometimes we just have to like tell ourselves like the truth of where we need support. And sometimes like spending more money, sometimes it's buying the highest level of support that we can afford rather than the Band-Aid style purchases. Like, so this is another way. I'll just give your lady, I'm assuming your audience is mostly ladies, but so like, for example, let's just say I hate cleaning. I don't want to clean. So if I hire a housekeeper, and so I spend money on that every other week, my house is clean, I feel great, that frees up my attention. Now, I own my own business. So for me, I saw my income increase when I hired that out because now this task was off of my shoulders. And I know that's not always possible, and especially for all your listeners, but sometimes the highest level of support is the cheaper one. Right. So again, I had a client who hired a food service because after she worked all day, she went and she got her son. He was a teenager. He didn't want to. You guys, teenagers are a whole vibe. They don't want to eat anything that their mother cooks. They want Taco Bell. Like they want food that somebody else made. If like, I wonder if it would work like if Katie cooked for my kids, if they would want to eat it. But if I cook for my kids, they don't want it. Right. So like, so this is a challenge. So the son's giving her crap out, giving her the yada yada. And so she ordered the food service and it looks more expensive up front. But when you compare it to the cost of all the takeout,
yes,
far less. So sometimes we also have to look when we're trying to solve a money bleed at the highest level of support. So a money bleed is just when you're spending money on things you really don't want, you really don't need, and it doesn't really enhance the quality of your life. But when we get into a cycle of scarcity in our time, money, and energy, that's the busy, broken, exhausted. And that I will also share with you, even that, busy, broken, exhausted, that's not an income thing. Like, people making a lot of money will fall into that category. So at that point, you have to look at the scarcity. You have to look at the layer deeper. It's not just the money. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. So, you might see the same quote unquote issues with someone who you might not expect to see it with based on their income. And I feel like we've talked about this in the past too. Like just because you're making more income doesn't all of a sudden mean your money issues or problems or struggles go away.
No, it really doesn't. So when I started working with people in money, everything I thought about money was wrong. Money is a fascinating topic because one, it's a little taboo. Nobody really talks about it. It's a little under the radar. So you think you can know what people have or don't have, but you're wrong. I was wrong. People are wrong, whatever. So generally, when you're making more money, you just go to nicer restaurants. You just buy nicer clothes. Like you'll buy a more expensive house. When you really look at the budgets, it's not really vastly different. It's funny because sometimes people who make a lot of money will be like, oh, I'm so special. I make all this money. And I'm like, lady, I read a lot of transactions and your bullshit. Oh, sorry.
It's okay.
I was like, and your nonsense is just not all that special. Like it's just the same flavor of nonsense everybody else has. And it's fine. It's all real solvable. The thing is you have to be looking at the right level. So when you're looking time, money, and energy, when you're looking at habits, when you're looking at highest level of support, it's all real easy to solve. When you're focused on the wrong thing, like buying the cheapest granola, it's the wrong question. It's the wrong answer, even though the granola is cheaper at Aldi's.
So going back to that example of the mama who was doing the Wednesday night takeout pizzas, kind of just on autopilot, obviously it made her life easier in that sense, but it was a money bleed for her because she didn't really want to do it. It didn't add to her life. And that's why it was a money bleed. Now, if she was like, hey, it's our favorite pizza, we look forward to it, this is like a tradition, then you would have been like, okay, well, let's talk about that then. Let's build that into your monthly plan. Yeah. Am I right on that?
Yeah. The difference, if you take out pizza, it can enhance the quality of an evening. If now we're able to be present and we're able,
Yes.
it can be a beautiful thing to have somebody else cook dinner and to eat off of paper plates. Like that's great. It's that these people were deep in credit card debt. They did not want to be using their money this way. They were really funding the busy, broken, exhausted cycle that they did not want. They were funding it with their purchases. So they're buying the lifestyle they do not want. And so this is the place where then we have to start to pull the money back, because now, it wasn't just the pizzas. Like it was the pizzas once a week. There was a lot of other habits going on there where now all their money's gone. Now their dishwasher breaks and they have to put it on the credit card, and they're not saving for the things they want to be saving for. This family liked education. They wanted to prioritize that. They couldn't afford to, but they could afford to. It was just these busy, broken, exhausted habits that were in the way. So like if you're buying for convenience, listen, sometimes that's the right answer. There's nothing wrong with buying for convenience, but when it becomes a way of life, chances are it's probably a money bleed. So it's a little bit more nuanced. And I want to also just mention here that we really have to be gentle. We have to be gentle with ourselves, because the internalizing of I'm bad at money, or the internalizing of I overspend, or we add these stories all the way to our identity, and that doesn't help. And I promise you, ladies, if you could judge yourself into being rich or happy or thin or have perfect hair, like you would already be there. You wouldn't be listening to us talk about it. Like if you could judge yourself into your awesomest version, you'd already be there. And so like we have to just remember that we don't have to be perfect to be plenty. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I love that. I love that sentiment. And I appreciate the nuance of it too. I think it's important for listeners to understand, and, just to, even for me to, bring that back into it and consider not just the money aspect, like so many do when we're talking about money. Obviously, it's like, oh, money. But just like you said, it's also all these other resources, your time, your energy. It's not so like one dimensional, I guess is what I would say.
Yeah. And what I also want to say is sometimes we're focused on things that I'm gonna tell you a really silly little story. All right.
Do it.
So I had a client once, and she was spending a lot of time, a lot of energy clipping coupons. So much so that her husband walked into my office, and she was like down the hall chit-chatting with my receptionist. He closed the door for a second, and he was like, listen, she is buying so much soap. Like you have to get her to stop. And I was like, okay. And so she prances down the hall, and she's like wanting to tell me about all these great deals. She's got a closet full of Dial body wash. He's looking horrified. She's like, I bought more deodorant than we will ever need in our whole wide lives. And he's like, it's in the garage. It's like taking up the space. And so I was like, all right, okay, well, this seems like a good stockpile. And I'm like, what else could we potentially be doing? Right? I was like, you're spending a lot of time, a lot of energy, and the exchange that you're getting is very discounted soap. You have a closet full of soap. We're talking hours and hours and hours. So I'm like, all of this mental energy, all of this intelligence, and we're buying Dial body wash, at 17 cents. And so I was like, all right, well, let's kick this around. Is there anything that we could do to potentially make more money? And the idea that she had, the idea that she loved, do you guys remember those stretchy pants, those LuLaRoe stretchy pants? They were,
oh yeah,
they were like an MLM. And so she started to hustle the LuLaRoe pants. And so listen, and she did not become a LuLaRoe consultant. She would buy the cool patterns of the LuLaRoe pants and then sell those on like eBay or some other place. And she was making like $800 a month for the same time, the same energy. And so that $800 went way further on paying off their credit card debt which was a priority of theirs, than having cheap, so I'm like, even if you never have to buy soap again, how much really are you, where are we really going with this? So sometimes it's like the idea that we should spend less and less and less. It's not necessarily wrong, and there's certainly things to do, but sometimes we have to turn our attention in a different direction to actually get out of the busy, broken, exhausted.
Yeah. And I want to speak to that too, because when I met you, a lot of my like old school listeners who've been listening to the show for a long time who know you and love you. But I went from a new listener. So Brie has an incredible course called Find Your Bleed. Obviously, your money bleed, right? And it has quite literally saved me tens of thousands of dollars. And that is like year after year after year. And related to your story about the mom who went to Disney, about a year and a half after I took Find Your Bleed, we were able to go to take our first European trip as a family. And I remember, I think I called you and I like cried. I'm like, Brie, this is because of you. And I never would have believed it either. Anytime I would be like, oh, well, she cut out buying like Target runs and now they're going to Europe. But I'm telling you, and all the things I learned, it has made such a difference. And once you learn those strategies, those continue to have this cumulative impact. And I know you've seen that time and time again with your clients.
Yeah, it makes. So let me just give the people the quick and dirty on this, so that way, So first, I teach how to look at the money that you've tracked, right? So like how to look at it, which is different than just tracking, because it's the lens, right?
Yes.
And the thing that's really cool is so I started working with people and their money in 2013, and at first I was a stockbroker, but I was looking at people's money and transactions, and what I started to see there was patterns. And this is the lens that I teach you how to look at the money with. Because when you just read your transactions, but you don't know how to look at it, you're like, oh, I went there. And you can never really find what the problem is, right? Because you were saying like, I wasn't buying designer bags, right? It's not the designer bag. It's the $27. It's the $14. It's that. So then we work on the things that are one-time free up cash flow. So I've had clients like reduce their credit card interest to shop out their cell phone, shop out their insurances, things that are one time that free up cash flow, but that don't require habit change. Then we work on increasing household efficiencies. So this is really around time, money, and energy. And it's really because I'm like, women are doing procurement for their whole house, right? Like businesses have procurement departments, but in our lives, it's just the lady. It's just the lady that lives there. And so she's buying the groceries and she's buying the cleaning supplies. And when we figure out how to buy these things in a way that keeps us out of the stores, this is then where we start to get enough time and energy back that then we can look deeper into the emotional purchases. So I teach in the Find Your Bleed how to really look at things like, I call them low joy purchases, how to really look at those emotional spends and then figure out like, what's the trigger, what's the routine, what's the reward, and what's the reward beyond the thing that I bought, right? So when I was earlier giving the example of like, all right, so if I call Katie and I say, hey girl, you want to go out for a chicken wing? What I'm really saying is I will buy a fried meat in order to hang out with you. I will eat, I will have a beer, I will have a fried meat. But really, what am I really getting out of that interaction? It's the time. It's that social interaction. And so when we look at the way that we spend, we have to really, if we want it to stick, it's got to still fill that emotional need. So if I say, oh, I don't have enough money, I'm not spending money. Let me not call Katie and let me not go out for. Now I'm going to have this void because what I actually needed was some girl time. You guys kind of picking up what I'm putting down? Are you?
For sure.
And so we have to really look, because a lot of times the things that we're spending our money on, we can get that same emotional need met either in a way that's not a Band-Aid style solution, or we could do it without spending money or in spending money in a different way that's potentially more sustainable. And so we go through all of these things and literally like people save thousands and thousands of dollars. And then like, it's like you free up the cash flow and then all of a sudden you're able to get, your credit cards down and then all of a sudden those payments go away. So you said that cumulative effect around it. And it's not a real harsh money course. I'm not like judging or shaming people like, some other money professionals out there, but it's more just like, how do we spend our money on purpose and use our money to buy the lifestyle that we want? It's not a restrictive shame on you kind of vibe. It's more just like, well, what do you really want? Like, let's use the money for the things that you really want.
I've always loved and appreciated your perspective on that. I mean, there's so much shame around money and guilt around money. And, that perspective that you give in that course. And just, anytime I talk to you, I'm like blown away. I'm like, oh, I needed to talk to Brie. I need to have her back on the show. It's so helpful and it's so real life. And I want to talk about two different resources that you've got available. Obviously, your course, Find Your Bleed, highly, highly recommend. It is like it's under $40. It's under
$40. Yeah.
And the return on investment, massive. Take it from me. And then you have a book that released last year. So talk to us more about that.
Oh, beautiful. So the book is called Cash Confident, Practical Money Management for the Modern Woman. And I've been working with people on managing cash flow in real life for a very long time. And so that book outlines all of the things that I had to learn the hard way. And I want to just take a second and point out that there's no school on how to really be good with money, right? There's not class. Like I had to learn all of this school of hard knocks, and I tested it with real women. And a lot of the money advice out there is based on scarcity. It's based on restriction, and restriction does not work. Anytime you try to control your money by restricting it, it backfires. It doesn't work. And so that book outlines basically all of the information that I've gathered over the last, like, I don't know, what's this, almost 15 years now. And it's all tested with real people, and it works. So, and it's a cute little read. It's easy. It's conversational. You could read it in a weekend. But it's the sort of thing that you're going to be like, oh, this is so easy. But it wasn't. It wasn't easy. It took me 15 years to learn it. So read the book, and then you just get to think that it's easy, and that will delight me. Write a review.
I was going to say, well, I went to go look at it again recently, and I was like, I mean, all 5-star reviews. This is stellar. I mean, good for you.
No,
and I'm not surprised by that, because I know you and I know your philosophy, and I fully support and believe in it, and I love it. But that's epic. So, I mean, for all the readers out there, is it available on audio? I haven't listened on audio.
No, I didn't. Okay. I didn't do it. I haven't done an audiobook. So we'll see. Oh, I know. The idea of sitting and reading for that. Oh, but I will tell you, it's an easy read. You can get through it very, very quickly.
Well, I love it. Well, Brie, okay, so if you could leave the listeners with one final piece of encouragement, and you've already given them a lot, or maybe it's a reframe around money, what would it be?
Just as there's nothing wrong with you. That's like the thing that I just want to say to people over and over again. Like, there's nothing wrong with you. You can always do a little better. You could always do a little worse. But when we have these stories about us and money, a lot of times the stories are so much more damaging than whatever the thing that we bought was. You know, so if you have any internalized story of, oh, I'm an overspender, I'm bad at money, or anything like that, just stop it. Just change your story and let yourself get better and better as you go.
Create so much mental clutter. And I would say we all have stories around money. And it's just kind of tapping into them. I mean, you've certainly helped me with mine throughout the years. A lot of different stories, money related or not. That's what's so cool. I think what you teach, it's not like, you give me some really great advice related to like this belief, like I had to work hard, like really, really hard all the time, or like I was failing, or my business would shut down and I would lose everything if I took a week off or whatever, you know? And the support you gave me through that, and it was like, we did like a half-hour phone call. There's so many parallels. It continues to help me within these other departments in life. That's what's so cool.
Yeah, money is a tool for creation, right? So if we have a tangle in our money, it impacts our life. And it doesn't take long. It's quick. So figuring out how to be in good relationship with money, where it's not such a point of contention with yourself. Yeah, because money's also like not engaging with this back. Like, you know, like you're like, I'm bad at money. Money's like, okay, all right, well, sure. Well, we will disappear right out of these bank accounts if that's what we're doing. You know, so our life will match our stories. You know, it's a little like a manifest. It seems woo, but really it's when you believe certain things about yourself, you behave in certain ways. And when you believe other things, you behave in other ways. And that's really what makes the difference. You know, so maybe we're manifesting, maybe it's our behaviors, who knows? But the internalized drama of money, you could let it be easy. Doesn't have to be easy for me to say, because I've been doing this for, 600 years, but.
Well, you put all your wisdom, I mean, not all of it, but the book, first of all, 15 years of, like you said, learning the hard way of mistakes, going into a book. So all of us don't have to make those mistakes. And Find Your Bleed, again, can't recommend that enough. So one last thing before we go, Miss Brie. We started with the item you would declutter. So, I mean, for you, that was making sure you
a clean kitchen sink.
No more mental clutter over a dirty sink or lost forks and spoons and cups.
Yes.
But what is one item in your home that you would never let go of? Is there anything?
I mean, just the humans that live here with me. I am a ruthless purger. I'm sentimental around like humans, but not around actual items. Like, I don't know. I know that you're the expert on decluttering, and what I'm going to say is probably not the way that you would suggest it. But a few years ago, I remember I just got a dumpster and I just threw everything away. And it was the best day of my life. And then maybe like every other year we get a dumpster. And we go through and I mean, we donate what's donatable, but anything broke. And now we don't even need a dumpster because now like, but I got married in my 20s and we were broke until everybody in our families, everybody that loved us would just give us their old stuff and we would just take it. I'd be like, oh, is that a broken rocking horse from 1989? Yes, please bring it on over. My kids may scratch themselves with it, but we're just going to take that anyways. Anyways, so we started with like all of the people who love us, their old stuff. It's like, I love a good purge. I love to like clean out the junk drawer. Like while my water's boiling, I'm like, let me see what I could throw away. Let me see what I could get out of here. Let me see what I could donate. We have like an ongoing donate bag. So yeah, literally, I don't think I have anything that's super sacred to me other than my family.
That's fine.
You're like, I hope that was an okay answer. It's just it's diarrhea all over everything.
I love the rocking horse that, that's metal, that's got rust and we might need a tetanus shot from. That's relatable. I mean,
yeah, we just all put the kids on that. Yeah.
Yeah. Just toss them on. It's still the 80s, right? Like it wasn't 20 years ago, the 80s, or am I wrong on my math there?
It was for sure.
Well,
I was born in the 80s and so were my children. Yeah. It's always so fun to hang out with you.
So much. Yeah, same. Thanks, girly.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you.